Hey guys, driving out here in the garden, and these two beds are my newest beds. This one in particular is, both of these had a problem with compaction last year since they were the brand new bed, and by the time the growing season was done, the compost soil mixture that was in it was basically a giant rock because it had just compressed really hard. And so when I prepped it for use this year, I mixed in a whole lot of organic matter to as well as perlite and vermiculite and other things to try and help loosen up the soil and keep it loose. And what's interesting, and I've been noticing here, that it's kind of hard to tell at this point, but I don't know if you can take a look at the size of some of the leaves here. For example, this guy. So there's that size. And I'm going to go over here and look at a leaf on this one. I don't know if you can tell the scale difference, but the size of the leaves on the two different varieties of watermelon that I grew in this bed are at least half bigger than the exact same varieties that were grown in this bed. In addition, the ones in that bed are a lot more vigorous. They grew much faster, they were vining out a lot faster. And those are two plants. That's just two plants, and look how much they've taken over. I mean, that's awesome. They're just exploding with life. I love it. This one, take a look at how much vinage we have in that plant. This one is about, I'd say 12 plants, and some of these were planted well before the other two, so I think this bed is still having some issues, and I don't know, is it pH, is it NPK mix? And so some of the stuff that I'm doing now to experiment with this and figure out what's going on is I'm kind of learning about soil microbiology and some of the things that are newer learnings that are going on right now. And so what I've done for all of my other beds that I have, all of these guys, I had purchased some red wiggler worms and added them to the beds. And now, you know, a couple years, 3-4 years later, I can't dig up anything without hitting a passel of worms, and which is great. But these two beds have not yet had the worms added to them. So I just ordered 2 pounds of earthworms. Let's see if you can find any in here. They were crawling up all over the place. Now they're hiding down in here. Here they are. So I got European earthworms as opposed to red wigglers. And I'm kind of learning a little bit of the difference between the different types of worms and what they do. And red wigglers are the composting worm of choice because they are voracious eaters, and they also tend to stay at the surface level in comparison. If you had a big substrate, they're going to stay at the surface level. And I think that's actually why the birds are loving some of these beds, is they dig down to the soil, and then there's worms, and so they're eating my worms. But the earthworm, the European earthworm in particular, I chose it because it is a mid-level worm, so it likes to stay at a level below the red wiggler. If I get this information wrong, my apologies. This was based on the research that I've done, but this is why I chose them, was because they're mid-level. So hopefully they will not be right under the surface. Up here they will be further down. There's plenty of organic stuff mixed into this bed. There should be plenty of food well below the surface level. But the reason that I chose earthworms over red wigglers is because earthworms are actually better earth movers and keeping the soil aerated and not as compact. And if this bed is having a problem with compaction, like it did last year, then the earthworms should help. That's my theory. I guess we'll find out how that goes. Probably not with the watermelon, but maybe, you know, in the course of a year we'll figure that out. This bed ended up, by the time I added the same, this bed is actually, that bed is a 3x8 and this bed is a 4x8. So I put the same amount of organic matter, grass mulch and other stuff, into that bed when I was mixing it up. So it ended up per yard more mulch to begin with, or more organic matter mixed in to begin with, plus that one had a whole bunch of onions and leeks that had gone to seed that I just chopped up and threw back into the bed. So it ended up with so much organic matter in the soil, and I mean a ridiculous amount of organic matter. It was trying to bury anything in there, like planting my cucumbers there. It was digging up garlic bits and stuff like that and pushing that out of the way to get it into the soil. But I think that level of organic matter actually is what's making the biggest difference in the fertility of that extreme happiness of my watermelon there. So I'm thinking next year, in addition to the worms, I'm going to be, you know, all of the vines that you see here are going to be chopped back up and dropped into this bed, and then mixed in along with the mulch that's on the surface as part of the preparation for next season. So I'm hoping that with the earthworms, with that level of organic matter and everything that I'm working on with the learning about the soil microbiology and trying to build inoculants that I'm going to be adding to all of my beds, not just this one, I'm hoping to be able to see a big difference. So it's a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but the goal is I want to see vibrant, healthy plants that are just growing amazingly well, giving me awesome fruit, and build that on a bed of super healthy soil, because everything in life comes from the soil. Everything. That is the foundation of it all. So if I can figure out how to do that in my beds, and then when I expand out to the new beds, hopefully this problem will not be 2 years of growing in the new beds will not be needed to get it up and running. So that's kind of the goal, because I know I'm looking at bringing 4 more beds online, and I don't want to make the same mistakes again that I did with these 2 new beds. So a bunch of experiments, and I'm putting the earthworms out now. It's basically sunset, so give the worms time to dig in and hide and whatnot before the birds are out in the morning looking for their breakfast. But yeah, that's what I am doing here, and yeah, adding worms to the bed. So anyway, that's what I'm doing, and I will report back. Like I said, I'm not expecting there's going to be a tremendous difference in this season, but I want to see, once these go and the fall crop comes in, I'm going to try and do some of the same things in this bed as I'm going to do in that bed, maybe some broccoli or something like that, and compare how the two grow and see if the changes that I'm making to this bed, which I am not making to that bed, actually make a difference. So we'll see. Long-term experiment, but this is the setup. And there we go. So y'all have fun in your gardens, keep experimenting, and keep learning. Bye guys.